into it, man. I got a pretty.
Yeah, I love that shirt, man. I love that shirt. Killer band.
The King Parrot, yeah,
yes.
Man. Yeah, and they're just about to drop.
There's a lot of great. You know what? There's so many great bands from your neck of the woods. I so wish Mortal Sin would get back together, but and same as Forearm. I'd love to hear some new Forearm material as well. Those guys are amazing. Yeah.
Australian metal is crazy. Matt Hanchuck from Canadian thrash metal masters Wreck-Defy. Thank you for joining myself and Crannk, man. Very pleased to meet you, dude. This is very cool. Thought I'd quickly get into the intro before we keep talking. Well, keep going, man. Aussie metal's cool, dude. Thrash metal, man, is what I want to talk about with you, dude. This is really cool to finally get to chat with you because I come across you, I think, back late 2017, early 2018. It would have been the Fragments of Anger album that I heard from you guys, and I was instantly impressed because I love all types of metal, but I grew up a lot on thrash metal, as you can tell, with the Sepultura there, and bands like of that ilk and the Death Angel and things like that, and it was, for me, that was a huge influence to my musical journey as well, kind of led to me here, man. So it's very, very cool to finally get to have a chat to you about thrash metal, man.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you following us from the onset. That's great.
Yeah, man. Very, very cool to finally stars align that we get to have a chat, man. Can I talk about how you first began playing guitar?
Wow. Well, sheer boredom. We get 7 months of winter up here every year. No, I'm kidding. You know what? Like most kids, I was born in the 70s, like guys in our generation. I grew up through the 80s. So, bands like Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer, Megadeth, the big four, as they're often referred to, they were trend-setting, breaking new ground, and just the sound of that sonic crunch that they had with their instrumentation was something that was new. Of course, I reveled in that sound, and I wanted to be a part of it, right? So, I was self-taught. I'm a left-handed guitar player. Growing up in a town called Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, I picked up, I guess I was around 13, first time I picked up a guitar. They never had any really good quality left-handed instruments. So I actually, much like Charlie Steinhauer from Paradox out of Germany, I learned to play a right-handed guitar upside down like Albert King does with the strings inversed.
Jimmy.
So, and what's funny is I actually still to this day play like that. So it's, I call myself a half retarded Canuck, and based on that lineage, I'm able to decipher the upside down string pattern. So it's worked out rather well for myself. But since the age of 13, and as I sit and talk to you today, I'm near dead. So I've been around for a while.
Yeah. Well, what was it, a small town or a big country town you grew up in? Was like heavy metal? Did that really help focus you growing up in a town, like you're saying, a smaller country town, I suppose?
Well, you know what? It was there wasn't much of a metal community per se. So the whole concept of being the underdog, which is what metal essentially derived from, that sort of underground approach, where it's like, the nucleus is very strong amongst themselves, but in the grand scheme of things, we're always the little guy, you know what I mean? And in the group, you know what I mean? They're always the odd man out, so to speak. So myself, everything was more sport oriented in my town. The city was like, maybe back then, I don't know, maybe 80,000 people. So yeah, and we were like basically northwestern Ontario, put into perspective geography. We were like 8 hours from Toronto, but we might as well be 800 hours from Toronto, because like it's just a completely different lifestyle. It's laid back, there's not even, a lot of the traffic, there's no double lane traffic back in the day even, you know what I mean? So it was very quiet, quaint, low crime rate, not a lot to really be upset about. The economy was booming back in the day. So, but anyways, yeah, the music thing for me was, it was just something I gravitated to because I guess from an early age, I could hear that I was enamored by all music. Anything that had guitar tones to it really captured my ear. And what I felt with the thrash stuff and just the metal stuff in general was that, even though I couldn't play, but I could hear that type of music was a cut above in terms of the technicality, if you will, or the proficiency on the instruments that those guys possessed. And it's something that it just drew me into the craft of playing.
Yep.
So I learned from an early age that, that the songwriting was equally as important as the ability to be a good player. So I've tried hard to get better and better, and I still keep trying to get better and better. And I'm in no way comparing myself to any of those bands. I'm just saying that it was nice to have that sort of influence at an early age, you know, and I to this day, that's all I listen to, you know, like well, sure, I shouldn't say that. I listen to a little bit of everything, but that's all I acquire. When I purchase music, it's metal. I don't buy, you know, with the exception of maybe KMFDM or something. And again, that's only because they have those thrash metal guitar riffs with their techno beats.
Yeah.
But, you know, if it's got that crunching guitar tone, and then I'm super attracted to that sound. So yeah, Rammstein even's got some great metal riffs too. I mean, don't shit on me for saying that, but you know, there's got to keep an open mind, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's so much great metal around too. We're talking about thrash. Like, it's great to see this real resurgence of thrash metal and bands like Wreck-Defy. Like, you know, it's really good to see this. Over here in Australia, it's the same. We have so many amazing thrash metal bands coming out. It's really cool, like, to see all this different resurgence of thrash metal bands. You're talking about the classic thrash metal bands. They're all making huge comebacks and have been for the last fucking 10 years or something. And Heathen dropped a ripper of a thrash metal recently, dude. So it's just alive and strong and going even stronger at the moment. It must be really cool for yourself to see as well.
It is, you know, this we had some opportunities to go to Europe actually this year. It was pre-planned earlier in the late last year, early this year. I'm talking back in like February, March, and then as you know,
I've seen that.
COVID shit kind of threw a monkey wrench into everyone's plans. So at the end of the day, though, I got to say that, you know, just being honest here, you know, this music thing was an afterthought, at least for me as a writer. So like, I have a career, and it's not something that I'm dependent upon for my livelihood. Yeah. So for me, this is more of a cathartic outlet, and I just enjoy, you know, the craft of playing and performing. And just something about it, there's an allure to it for me, and I enjoy it. And the camaraderie you share with, because, you know, the interesting thing about this genre of music is that it's easy to call fans friends, because you really are on the same page when you talk to them, when you play shows. Like, you know, you listen to these guys, and they're equally as impressed by the music that we revere as influential, right? So we share those common bonds about, you know, who we appreciate, who we aspire to, you know, one day be held, you know, like potentially be as equally as competent as songwriters and stuff. So it's funny how the network for metal is so tight knit. Does that make sense?
It does.
You know?
It totally
does. I find that it's very specific to our genre. You know, the only thing that, you know, back in the day, there was always kind of a divide. Like, I'm going way back now. There was a divide between like the death metal guys and the thrash metal guys, you know, and the glam metal guys. Well, glam metal, I mean, that's more like refined pop. I wouldn't call it metal. But that said, there's some great players in that genre too, especially the guitar players, you know, back to like Dan Rat, you know, or, you know, Warren DeMartini, those guys. I mean, anyways, at the end of the day, it's just, there's just, I find the metal guys are just a cut above. And I mean, there's always a few anomalies that will contradict that. But for the most part, I think we're a tight knit group. The metal community in general, not Wreck-Defy per se, but we're a tight knit community, and I think we have that. You know, I'm gonna coin Overkill's united in union we stand, right? United we stand, divided we fall. Anyways, back in the day, what I was alluding to is I found there was a divide between the death metal guys, the thrash guys, but that seems to have the lines seem to have blurred a bit with that, and I find we're more all one and the same. For a long time now, you go to a festival and you'll see bands that are like complete opposite ends of the spectrum: black metal, death metal, thrash metal, and they all fit a bill really well. You know,
well, that's really what makes a good metal festival, doesn't it? Having all these bands of a different bill. Like, I've gone to shows, and it's just blown me away. Like, it's been, you've gone and seen some thrash metal and some death metal and some grindcore, then, you know, a bit of deathcore and then some metalcore, and I've walked out just going, wow, this is so cool. And yeah, in every scene you're going to get the odd metal elitist douchebag that's like, but most of them are fucking critics anyway, dude, not really fans of the scene, as you're saying.
100%. That's good, man.
So can I ask about like how this evolved into saying that Wreck-Defy kind of started as a cathartic songwriting process. Can you tell me a little bit about the formation and how that kind of began for you and your mindset leading into Wreck-Defy and kind of forming this band?
Yeah, you know, I had a buddy, Justin Steer. He did the vocals, the bass lines on Fragments of Anger, the first record. You know, Justin and I were in a band. I used to live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and we were in a band, just more of a cover band. We had a few original tracks, but you know, Justin, he kind of had the jump start before I did. He started his band Alpha Kill. I don't know if you've ever heard of Alpha Kill, but they released a couple independent records. They're defunct now, but you know, anyways, I was inspired by my friend taking his craft to the next level. And basically all the songs for Fragments had been written 20 years prior to that record being recorded. So he kind of lit a fire under my proverbial ass, and basically, you know, I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to get my stuff recorded. I thought they were strong songs, and I enjoyed listening to them. And if no one else heard them, I didn't give a shit. I just wanted to put a respectable quality stamp on these, right? So putting it together, I didn't know where to go with it, but I did know one thing, you know, after playing, you know, in bars and stuff for 30 years, and you know, having the luxury of meeting so many different musicians and getting to share, you know, opinions about how to approach this craft from a professional standpoint, you know, omitting the drugs, omitting the booze, you know, just doing it for the right reasons. One thing we all agreed upon is that your record had to sound sonic. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it, especially at today's age, because, you know, everyone's got Pro Tools, you know, everyone's got the ability to make a killer sounding record in their parents' basement, never mind your own basement. Right? So what happened there was, I reached out to Glenn Drover at the time, you know, ex-Megadeth alumni, and Glenn, I mean, he's also a fellow Canuck. So, you know, there was a little bit of a historical lineage there, being both countrymen. He agreed to mix that record. And during that time, the drummer from Alpha Kill, who was also Derek Kroll, a gentleman who played in our little cover entourage band, if you will, he was supposed to do the drum tracks for that record. And the logistics, I had just moved to Thunder Bay, Ontario, with my job. And so I'd left Winnipeg. So now I'm 8 hours away each way. During that time when tracking began, it was Glenn that said, you know what, wouldn't it be easier if my brother Sean drove her, right? Do the drum tracks for this record. Are you okay with that? I'm like, well, of course I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Anyways, so that's how that record came together. So it was kind of a collective or collaborative effort between myself, and I gotta really give a plug to Glenn, because I mean, Glenn was the one that made Sean come into the picture, and then just having him associated with it gave it more notoriety than I think it deserved, you know. So I don't have any you know, misconceptions, and I'm not delusioned by that. It wasn't me that drew anyone to wanting to seek that record out. It was the affiliation with Glenn and Sean. So that was a great thing. And moving on to the next record. So what happened was it grew some legs, you know, albeit at an independent level. A label out of Greece called Alone Records picked it up on vinyl. It's actually never been released officially on CD other than independently, just so you know, Fragments. So, yeah. So the CDs, the only ones that are floating around are the ones that we pressed. But the vinyl was pressed by Alone Records. Anyways, you know what? The record sold fairly well from what we were told. So we decided, well, you know, maybe we should do another record. Well, Justin didn't want to do another record because he wasn't comfortable being a front man, just holding a microphone. He's actually a guitar player himself, and he likes to hide behind his guitar like most rhythm guitar vocalists.
A lot of good front men are like that though too, though, eh?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That's his thing, you know, and so I respected that. I mean, it is what it is. So moving forward, the next batch of songs, majority of them are still leftover riffs and stuff that I never developed into songs from that, within that 20-year window, if you will. So writing the Remnants record, I reached out to Aaron Randall, as you know, and ex-Annihilator vocalist. And Aaron was the first guy that I reached out to, again, looking for another half-retarded Canadian to front the band, right? So Aaron,
I love
I
Canadians.
sent him the fragments. Yeah. I mean, we're not that far apart, other than in distance.
I've interviewed
and we
heaps
talk
of Canadians. These are all great,
and we talk funny to each other.
Yeah, great politics and ideas too. A lot alike, I think, in ideology as well with Australia Canadians. There's a lot alike, that's for sure.
Well, you talk politics. Oh my God. So thank God for our prime minister. Otherwise, half the lyrics from the new record wouldn't have come about.
Yeah, I know, and the film clip as well. That was really cool. The
songs like freedom of speech, beyond hate, powers that be. Yeah, man, it's all about our prime minister. You know, it's interesting, since you want to touch on that. The irony is, a lot of people have gotten back to me and asked me about my opinions of the, you know, the state of the government in the United States, and they ask about the affiliation between the lyrical concepts. And I say, well, it may seem there's some parallels there, but I don't have an opinion on the U.S. government because I don't live there. You know, it's really not my position to say anything. But we have an asshole in Canada, so this is where I get all my ammunition from, right?
Yeah,
I want to throw verbal hand grenades at my government, you know? Yeah,
exactly. I'm the same too here, because I've got American mates, and I try and refrain from judging on what's going over there, because I say all politicians are fucking crooked until we finally get someone in power that really cares about the people and not the dollar. Then we're all going to keep getting screwed by politicians, regardless of who's in fucking power, right?
You know, it's as simple as this too. You know, the term political correctness. If we could all agree that every politician is full of shit, then the term political correctness has no merit to it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about the lyrics, you know, with Wreck-Defy. You aren't afraid to tackle political issues. I know another band, Truth Corroded, a great Australian thrash metal band who does some great thrash metal, and they are not afraid to touch on the political points as well, and it just makes for great fucking material and great thrash metal. There have been some great thrash metal bands over the years that have done this really well, and I consider you guys one of them as well. I really do enjoy the subject matter you touch on.
Thanks, brother. That's great.
Yeah, it's cool. As we were talking the second album, and we're up to Alex joined as well. You're saying, was it the second incantation? We're talking about the second album as well, Remnants of Pain.
Yeah, so Remnants of Pain, like you know, everything's got to be a progression, right? I'm all in favor of change. I'm all in favor of change. That said, I'm also big on loyalty, but you know, change has to be like one of those things that's kind of like not forced, right? It's got to be what's the
an evolution. There's an evolution.
An evolution. Thank you. So yeah, that's right. You got to evolve, and if it's at a snail's pace, so be it. But hopefully, especially at my age, I'm a late bloomer in this game. So, you know, and that's another thing. A lot of people are laughing because we're putting out so many records, and well, we got a lot of material that's been left. Like I have 120 gigs of riffs on a hard drive right now. Like it's just there's so much I can play with to make tracks come together. Anyway. Remnants of Pain, that record, a lot of those songs and a lot of the material from that was leftover stuff, or ideas that were left over from the Fragment session. And when I reached out to Juan Urteaga, who mixed that record, I mean, everyone knows who Juan is, I'm sure. I mean, Juan should be as revered as, say, like Andy Sneap, you know, Peter Tegtigran, all those big metal mixing guys, like everything that Juan has done in my ears has turned to gold. If anyone needs to reference, you know, and you need a reference point for that, just listen to the new Vicious Rumors record. You know, like, oh my God, I mean, that's the apex of power metal. That's power metal on steroids, right? And that's a testament to Juan's ability as a mixer, because you should hear these tracks in demo form before we send them off to Juan, versus how they come back. And it's like, oh my God, that's us. You know, we sound like that. That's great. So anyways, Remnants came together really fast. Like within 6 weeks, that record was completely written, recorded, and edited in 6 weeks. And then it was shelved for a while because Fragments had just dropped. Aaron has a home studio. So, and it really nice. He's got like a $20,000 vocal chamber or some crazy thing. So, at his home studio. So the ability to have, to share files, like we're talking about the Pro Tools and everything, it makes it really easy now to work with guys that are equipped at home, you know, to do all this stuff. So that record was an actually easier process than Fragments was, even though Fragments was at least like all new to me in terms of working collectively like that, sharing files. The Remnants one was much easier, and there was a lot more stir already with the band at that point. So it was easier to get another record deal, a little bit better distribution. Inverse Records out of Finland picked it up, and then Floga Records did a vinyl run on it, and they did a great job. The layout looked killer, you know. But that record had, you know, it was funny because we got some mixed reviews on that. You know, a lot of guys were like, there's a song called Looking Back on that second record. And I'm sure you know the track.
Yeah, I was cranking it before. I was cranking this album just before. I actually really dug it too. I liked some of the ballads and stuff too, and some of the points on this, man. It was really cool, dude. Like the
while looking, the interesting thing is looking back. A lot of guys were like, I was reading the reviews and guys were saying, well, you know, writing about a love song or something on a thrash record, it just doesn't fit the narrative. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not a love song. It's a song about post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
So I'm like, read the lyrics again, right? So I'm an ex-military guy, right? So I spent time in Afghanistan, and so a lot of that stuff is not.
I think that's why connected too, as well.
It's not fantasy.
No,
it's not fantasy. A lot of that stuff, it's reality, and it's a catharsis thing, right? To write that stuff, and sometimes it doesn't have to be. One thing about Wreck-Defy that we try to incorporate is always never omit the melody or the hook.
no.
So it could be as heavy as you want, like. You know what I mean? Like the heaviest song in the world doesn't necessarily have to omit melody. We weren't going for the Slayer sound, right? It still wasn't our approach. Slayer's amazing at what they do. I could never write music like that because it would be contrived. It wouldn't be real or sincere. I'd have to force that, you know? I mean, as angry as I can get, I'm not pissed off all the time. You know? I smile as much through the day as I frown. So
I know, but that's what you touched on there with these.
Yeah, so you know, you gotta have that hook or that melody.
Yeah, it did touch on that point. I just want to quickly touch on that.
Yeah.
Reviewers, man. I think most of them are just metal elitist douchebags anyway. Half of them guys, and to judge a band like Wreck-Defy to Slayer, they're each their own. Slayer does Slayer, and Wreck-Defy does Wreck-Defy. It's your second album, mate. And in my opinion, is free to grow, and as we use that word, evolve as you see fit, mate. And the hardcore fans, as you're saying, are gonna fucking dig it anyway. And fuck the reviewers, man. Even.
Hey, Jai, check your mic for me, please.
Yeah, man. Cool.
Check your mic a little bit.
Yep.
I'm losing your volume.
Oh, yeah, I can. I'll come a little closer.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, can I ask about?
Can you hear me clear?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly, mate. I want to ask about getting Alex Marquez on board because he's quite an accomplished drummer. How'd you get him on board as well for that second album?
Alex Marquez was actually he was referred to me to seek out. I'm trying to think who it was. It was not Joe Cangelosi, the one of the drummers from Whiplash. Yep. Help me out here, man. Don't forget, it's like not even 7 a.m. here.
Oh, it's crazy, yeah, man.
One of the Whiplash drummers, not Joe Cangelosi. I'm trying to think. It was the one before Joe that played in Whiplash. Yeah. Anyway, I was talking to him, and he had suggested that we seek out Alex. And Alex is basically our live guy. So like Alex hasn't done any recordings with Wreck-Defy. Yep. I use a guy named Dave O'Neill, who's a Bay Area drummer out of San Francisco Bay Area. And Dave O'Neill he was in a local band there called Angerhead. They actually have some YouTube stuff. Pretty cool band. Kind of a hardcore, maybe a groove, kind of hardcore kind of sound. Great band, great musicians. Anyways, Dave to me is the greatest thrash drummer that no one's ever heard of, right? So having Dave come on and do the studio stuff has been great, and he works well with Juan. So it's just more of a convenience thing. But I mean, his talent speaks for itself. Alex is one of those guys that Alex is a professional musician, you know, by trade, and needs to be as busy as he can. So Alex, look, if we had those shows come to fruition like they were supposed to prior to this COVID horse shit, then we'd be playing shows with Alex right now as we speak. So Alex is sitting there waiting with his fingers crossed for everything to open up so we can go play some shows together. But that's how he was referred to us through another drummer, and because he was looking for a gig to do some thrash stuff. Basically, that's how that came about. I talked to Alex just recently, and he's always asking me. He's like, we're still on, bro. We're still doing stuff. I'm like, it's not up to us. It's up to the government to open the friggin' venues up so we can play again, right?
Yep.
As we live on our knees over here.
So what's that like over there? Have you heard anything like about when they're going to open up for you guys? Because it's slowly starting to open up here. I think we can have shows like 100 people, can fit like 10, 15,000 into a fucking football game, but you can't fit 100 plus people into a gig. I don't know. Tell me about it.
Well, then, you know what, and I'll take that up one level with. I agree 100% what you just said. I said, you know, a thrash show, especially with the pit, the way the pit is, it kind of looks like looting and rioting. So why not just call it what it is, and then allow everyone to just entertain themselves? You know, we don't have to call it a concert,
Yeah, and some of these,
right?
yeah, some of
It's
these,
like a WrestleMania event. Yeah.
exactly, man. They're crazy, man. So, live gigs, maybe 2021, all shit will be going again. But I want to talk about this third album that you've got. This is going to come out, I think, tomorrow digitally, October 9th, if I got that right, and vinyl via Doc Gator Records in Switzerland. Have I got that one right? I got my notes here, I think. And physical copies are going to come out November 27th via the Italian record label Punishment 18. Vinyl, man, how good's vinyl?
Yes.
Like we're talking about metalhead support in the community. I'm finding vinyl does really well in the underground metal scene. And I was chatting to, I can't even remember who the fuck I was chatting to about this, and we were saying that metalheads, they're not pressing CDs, but they're going to do more records because they're less waste for one. But he's saying that, you know, we don't have the sales, but metalheads are buying these records and putting it in their collection. And, you know, I'm finding you go to these shows, and I've gone to some shows, and I've seen little record stands, and I know I have myself bought a record player and records just so I can start a nice nifty record collection. I find that metalheads are really good at supporting and buying vinyl off of guys like yourself, especially in the underground scene and bands from the bigger labels and that as well. The vinyl is really making a good comeback, and you guys have got some pretty cool vinyl pressed as well, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. That Doc Gator Records has been a great label to deal with. Frank, Oliver, the guys that work under that label are just, well, first of all, they're Frank's a musician. They appreciate the craft first, and then they're fans of the bands that they select to sign to their label. Yep. They're not trying to be a corporate, you know, fat cat thing where they just try to flood it with as many bands they can and then call them tax write-offs at the end of the year. They actually enjoy the bands that they sign. They enjoy listening to those bands, right? So, but they start off as fans, and then we become friends collectively. So there's a respect thing there right from the onset. And the idea sharing's been great. Like I chat with those guys every other day about everything and nothing, right? And it's just a matter of respect back and forth because, it goes back to that same ideology. You know, united we stand, divided we fall. We're such a small network, the metal guys. So, you know, we need them as much as they need us. And then guys like yourself, man, you're as big a part of this family as we are. You know what I mean? Like we revere anyone that wants to take the time to, you know, to have our name put out there, you know, albeit at an underground level. Who cares? It's all about that respect and giving us the notoriety. So I'm going to put a plug out for you on our page when we're done too. So
for me, I was the same as you. I come to this game later. I've just turned 40 this year as well. And I started this about 3 years ago, just as a massive fan of the community and heavy metal in general, like being a mad metalhead since like, I could remember getting into music when I was a young lad, like, you know, easy 12, 13, you know, and up till now, I've started this as being a massive fan. Went to one of these festivals we're talking about where you see the wide range. It was one here in Australia in Adelaide. I walked into, I think it was Heavy SA it was a local one put on by Jason North from Truth Corroded. He puts on Heavy SA and a New Dead Metal Fest. And I walked in and I was like, this is the fucking talent we have here in Australia, dude. I'm going to fucking spend my time promoting the underground metal scene as much as I can, not only from here in Australia, but from the world. And that's how this kind of started for me, you know. And then motivation, you hit 40 at our age, we just want to fucking keep working. I've been pumping out interviews so much, especially in this time. It's like, dude, I'll sleep when I'm fucking dead. I've been a bit late to the game, and yourself, Wreck-Defy, you could probably understand that, you know. I'm late to the game, and I can understand your point, as you're saying before. It's like, dude, I've just late to the game. I started this in my, you know, whenever I started it, late 30s, early 40s. I'm going to push this as hard as I can because I've probably got 10, 15, maybe 20 years in me. I'm going to crack out as much as I can and get as much as I can from this. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Amen to every word you just spoke. The reality of it is time doesn't go backwards. It moves forwards, and you can't even slow it down. It seems to speed up, you know, the older we get. So I feel like every moment is like a fleeting moment sometimes, right? So, you know, you grab it by the throat, the proverbial throat, and milk it for all you can. With the new record, you touched on Powers That Be. I wanted to point out that the one thing that really stands out, I mean, look, I mean, everyone, you've heard this a million times from other bands and artists say, yeah, this is the best thing we've done. Powers That Be is the best record we've done, hands down. The reason for that, I think, is that, you know, the last two records, or the first two, those songs were written, especially Fragments. Those songs were like 20 years before those songs were recorded, were written. And when I listen to it, you know, there's a few cringeworthy parts to me, but it's just because I'm critical as a writer, you know, as an artist. It just, you wish you would have played something a little better, a little more tighter or something, you know, more in the pocket, so to speak. But all the material from Powers That Be was written in the last year. So it's much more relevant to where as I am as a songwriter today, and same with Aaron. Like the melodies, the stuff that we came up with. You know, what we did was we took all of our influences, which is basically every thrash metal band, and then stuff like Alice in Chains, and we kind of threw it into a blender and said, let's seize this for what it is, not try to omit it and say, well, that sounds too much like Alice in Chains, or that sounds too much like Testament. No, bullshit. It's supposed to sound like that. That's what we love. That's what we listen to. So what we've never heard before was a band that sounds like Testament and Alice in Chains at the same time. So I thought, well, what's the issue? Let's try it and see how it works. Some people are going to be completely put off by it. I think some people are going to be really into it. So I'm okay. We're really happy and proud of this record. You know, like you say, lyrically, we threw a lot of verbal hand grenades, and we don't regret anything that's written on that record, or the new record rather. And collectively, we worked really hard together with the ideas. So, you know what I mean? Like the music material was written by myself, but it was arranged by Aaron and I. You know what I mean? Like it was a team effort. It was very cohesive, bounced ideas. We had enough respect for each other going into this record that, you know, he could just look at me and say, Matt, that sucks. Do it over. Play it better. And it didn't hurt my feelings. It's like, yeah, okay, man, I hear you. And I'd be the same with him. I'm like, dude, those words, stupid. Let's change this, you know? And it made the record better because there was that mutual respect. You know what I mean? Yeah, moving forward, it wasn't about pretentiousness. It wasn't about fragile egos. It was about how do we make this record better than the last two, right? So I think we accomplished that. And I'm really, like I said, I'm really happy with it. I can't wait to hear what the true fans and the true thrash metal people think of this record. And the ones that don't like it, I mean, there's nothing wrong with not liking something, but just don't say it sucks and then just move on. Why does it suck? I want to hear why it sucks. You know, like if someone thinks it's shit, that's fine. I don't expect to please everyone, but I'd like to hear what it is you think we can improve upon as writers, you know? Or if we're just damned because we're just deplorable musicians, that's fine. I'd like to hear that too.
Yeah, most of them are just keyboard warriors anyway, mate. Boop, boop, I don't like that, and I don't like this anyway, dude. So, yeah, I wouldn't be too worried anyway. So when did you start pre-production for this? When did you start kind of working on this?
It's been it'll be a year next month. So I did all the guitar tracks November 2019. Yeah, November 2019, I did all the guitar tracking.
Yep.
And the drums were done in January. Aaron went straight headstrong into the vocals. Yeah. Took him about a month to get the vocals done. That's another thing. So like I said, Remnants was done in like 6 weeks, front to back. Songs were arranged, mixed, edited, the whole bit. Whereas this one, Powers That Be, we took our time with it. Nothing was rushed. Yeah. I went back, changed parts, added parts, you know, doubled some melodies. We added vocal harmonies, you know. I mean, I'm not the greatest singer, but I can certainly harmonize and stuff. So we just had a better idea of where we wanted to be. We had a vision this time, whereas the last time it was just kind of like an organic thing. Let's see where it goes. Whereas this time it's like, no, let's try to achieve this. Let's try to make this solo sound like this. Like, you know, so a little bit more direction.
And I like evolved as a band as well from that first, and you've evolved as a band as well from that first album. Sure. You know, you've kind of just got together with that first album as well, if you know what I mean. And then with this one, you've had a chance to know how each of you work and where your positives are and what each are good at and where you can improve as well. And you're all probably working off each other and bouncing off each other to help create the best work that you've created for Wreck-Defy.
Well, you know what, and so. On that notion, like Greg Christian, our bass player, I mean, Greg came from Testament. Yeah. I mean, Greg And Greg's a rock star. He's a real bona fide rock star, right? So when Greg came on to do the Remnants record, you know, I was a little bit of a fanboy at first, right?
Yeah.
That's Testament, man. You know, like, come on. So, but you know what? Moving forward, that Greg's such a humble guy, as is Aaron. You know, and I'm the same way. It's not. There's no egos with this band at all. Zero. So, you know what? Well, I don't have a reason to have one, but those guys perhaps may have. You know, but moving forward, there's such a mutual respect amongst all of us that it was just an easier process writing songs, presenting ideas to one another, and not having to feel judged. Does that make sense? Like the Remnants thing, I felt like I was under a microscope sending files to Greg, because like, or even Aaron. It's like Aaron used to get shit sent to him from Jeff Waters, right? Greg would get stuff sent to him by Eric Peterson and Alex Skolnick. So it's like, oh my God, what is he going to think of these riffs, you know? But you know what, moving forward, and if you listen to Greg's performance on the new record, Greg will tell you himself, that is the best bass playing and tone he's had in years, right? Even during his last few records with Testament, he really put his heart and soul into Powers That Be. So I think the whole band kind of rose to the occasion, if you will, for this new record, and it really shows. And yeah, like, you know, this may sound, you know, completely arrogant, but I'm so proud of this record, and I think we wrote the best record that we could possibly do with what ability we have collectively. That's my feelings anyway. I mean,
I'm looking forward to cracking the hell out
have
of
you heard the whole record?
No, dude. I'm gonna be.
Have you heard the new one? The whole.
No, I've only had a chance, a couple of tracks. I've only got a couple of tracks. I got from Michael, hit me up straight away, and I'm like, dude, I got the email. He's like, oh, do you want to have a chat to Wreck-Defy? And I'm like, yeah, dude, straight away, because it kind of lined up. I remembered getting the promo for I think it was Remnants. You're talking Inverse Records way back then as well, dude. So I've kind of been following you guys as well for a while. So as I was saying at the start of this, so it kind of lined up really well that we'd been able to have a chat over Powers That Be. And the artwork is looking sweet on this one. Who done your artwork this time?
A guy by the name of Arianthi. He's from South America. Yeah, the guy's genius, man. He's got hand wrought art as the moniker he hides under on Facebook. And the guy's brilliant. I mean, some of his stuff is a little bit, as you can tell lyrically, we don't really go into the whole, not into the satanic shit. I find it equally as ridiculous as the Bible thumpers. It's same as the politicians. I'm like kind of down in the middle, you know? So we didn't want that imagery, and he's kind of more known for that type of stuff, like anyways. When I look at his stuff, I'm all about the the evilness, but not too evil. Yeah. So I thought the concepts were fitting with the lyrical stuff that we had, especially the song Space Urchin. That was our tribute to The Predator. You remember the movie The Predator, obviously, with Arnold? So that song is basically Space Urchin. Do you know that one? Are you familiar with that track? Space Urchin? Yeah. So that track was like our there was going to be, originally the album was going to be called Space Urchin. You can believe that, because we felt so strongly about that song. We felt so strongly about that song. But then looking at the political climate, just the state of the world, I thought, we talked, Aaron and I spoke, and, Powers That Be was a little bit more fitting to capture, the unfortunate, momentum of what the planet is currently, experiencing. So, it was basically just a conscious effort to say, well, what's the most relevant topic on this record? So, I mean, I guess we could have called it freedomless speech too, but
as you're saying, there's political.
At the end of the day, Powers That Be won that battle, and that's how the title of the record came about. But originally, Space Urchin was going to be the concept, and that's why the artwork is what it is, because that's the Space Urchin sitting on the cover. Yeah. So, I mean, and we're, this band is on a budget. We don't have, any type of financial backing from any big label, other than the fact that they press, the Doc Gator's pressing T-shirts, and they're going to do the vinyl and all that other stuff, and then Punishment 18 pressing the CDs. But as far as promotional stuff, I mean, everything's come from our side, with getting the artwork, and so lyric videos, and that comes out of the band's budget. The band doesn't have a budget. It's called working overtime. That's our budget.
Yeah, a lot of bands are like that though in the underground and independent scene. That's for sure. They're all struggling.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's fine because it is the labor of love, right? It's never, like I said, I have a great career, so I've never been disillusioned or had aspirations of, you know, back you hear these guys are, what's next for your band? World domination? It's like, world domination? What are you, a tyrant? No, man. It's like, it's just want to have people listen to this shit. Right?
Yeah. Well, when we get to a bit older too, I'm saying, you know that, you know, you got to work bloody hard, and there's only going to be 1.1% that's going to really make it big. Like you're saying, we do this for the love of the music as well. It's not about world domination. It's about creating a body of work that you're proud of. It's a cathartic experience being a songwriter yourself as well, and bringing out these albums. You know, it's about bringing out a body of work that you can be proud of as well, not world domination. It's not all about fucking money and the bottom dollar and everything else as well.
Well, there's no money to be made, Jai. There's no money to be made.
I know that, dude. I know that full well, dude. I know bands is like going to shows, you're just making beer money. We're talking about restrictions like at shows, like, and the 100 people restrictions. Some of these underground shows, it's criminal because you go to them, it's top rated bands, and there's 100 people, even without this COVID fucking shit. They're under 100 people in these shows you go to anyway. So, you know what I mean? And it's fucking hard.
Yeah, and you know, and the good thing about our genre of music is that we're one of the last strongholds where, you know, the vinyl will sell out.
Yeah.
You do a limited run, you will sell it out, you know, because metal fans they want that tangible physical copy, right? A lot of us do. I know I do. Yeah. I don't have one single record downloaded. I go to a show, I go straight to a merch stand. Like you can tell, I'm crazy with merch. I buy records, you know, and that being said, like bands like yourself that'll play a show, you'll be at the fucking merch stand selling the record, saying it to the fans as well. It's not, I'm putting someone else there, I'll sit back here backstage. Yous are actually out there communicating with your fans, and yous are one of the fans. As you're saying, you're fucking watching the bands, you're buying records, things like that. Absolutely. You know, one of my favorite things to do post-show is to talk about gear and stuff with guys. I love it, man. Talking, like, guys will ask about my sound or what you're playing through or how you got endorsed by EMG pickups or whatever. I enjoy talking shop, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And like, we're all one and the same. We're all the same, you know. We're all of the same blood, as Creator would say.
Yeah, man. So where's the best place, that being said, talking about merch and support, that people can get along and support Wreck-Defy?
Well, just through Facebook. Just go through our Facebook page. We don't have an official website. I mean, I don't even know if these things are getting used anymore. I haven't been on anyone's website forever. But social media, I monitor our page and I respond to everyone. So, you know, as long as it's not 3 a.m. and I'm not busy working, then I'll reply pretty much right away to someone if they reach out to us. But I mean, yeah, we've sold like hundreds of shirts and stuff through the actual Facebook page. We'll ship stuff anywhere. You know, if you've got an address, we'll get it to you. So we've got CDs. We've got some vinyl kicking around from Fragments still, actually. So if anyone's looking for a copy of it, I think we have like maybe 2 or 3 of the green ones left. They're gonna go quick. The CD thing, I wanted to. Someone mentioned something to me the other day, and I just thought it was hilarious. So the guy says to me, "You guys are getting CDs pressed?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Wow." He goes, "You know, in the 80s, in the 90s, he goes, CDs were used to snort cocaine off of. He goes, now, he goes, if the CD sucks, we can always use it as a beer coaster."
Wow, it was probably listening to that glam stuff.
Yeah, sign of the time. So where do you go after the beer coaster is no longer, right? I don't know, maybe they're dog treats or something. I don't know, but it's funny how but the vinyls come back around, and it's still an exciting time to be part of it, right? The music to me is like, it's as popular. Thrash metal is as popular now as it's ever been, as far as I'm concerned. It's just the industry doesn't allow for bands to mushroom to that next level anymore, right? You're not going to see these big major labels promoting. There's bands out there like Five Finger Death Punch, bands like that, you know, they're a cash cow for a label. But I hate to say this because I like that band. I really do. A lot of people laugh at me, but I mean, you know what? They got good riffing. The guitar player's killer.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go without some of the.
I've actually got a signed guitar pick from Jason Hook.
Jason Hook is brilliant. He's
Yeah,
a brilliant musician, you know. And anyone that shits on any of these bands, it's like, okay, is it trendy to do that? Because and even Nickelback, I'm not going to apologize for Nickelback. A lot of people think Nickelback is like the scourge of Canada.
Well, they're on Roadrunner.
Nickelback's great though, man.
Yeah.
I mean, they stole AC/DC's formula and that they just write the same song every time, but it sounds great.
And here's the thing: all these people that are bagging Nickelback are the same people singing after a few drinks or a few scotches or a few beers at the bar.
100%,
it's their guilty pleasure.
100%.
They don't have the balls to admit they're cranking Nickelback.
That's awesome, man. I totally love that.
Yeah, man. Metal is cool, man. As we're talking thrash metal is crazy. And Canadian metal is so good. And I want to mention, we're talking about the record labels. And I think people get hung up, and social media does feed into it somewhat, because you see these pages that who's better, Slayer or fucking Metallica, and they're still going on about Megadeth and bands from 10 years ago, and AC/DC, and God rest their souls. I love all of them. I'm not saying I don't, but there's other fucking bands out there besides shit that's been played from last 10, 20 fucking years. Go check out the scene. Go crank up Wreck-Defy. Check out these bands that are coming through, and you will be totally amazed and blown away by the quality and the talent of the music coming out today in the world, not the shit coming out 10, 20 years ago. Look, people are going to shoot me. I love Slayer, Metallica, and the rest of them, but we really need to stop buying into stuff that was, and we need to start checking out what is.
Wow, that's a great compliment. I take that as a compliment for us, because obviously I include us in those bands that are up and coming, the newer, what do we call the newer bloodline, if you will. I just put a plug out on our Facebook page the Facebook page with regards to our love of Overkill recently, and that I said something, words to the effect of, if there was no Overkill, whether or not you can hear the influence in our music is I guess a subjective matter, but if without Overkill there'd never be a Wreck-Defy, among other bands. But you know what, the idea is to take it what they had, and then take it somewhere else and do your own thing with it, right?
Yeah.
You know, like I was telling you earlier, I mean, thrash metal is the style of music that I want to write as a writer. But when I listen to music, there's other music that appeals to my audio palette, right? So like Alice in Chains, I'm not a big grunge fan, but those guys, they resonate differently with me, because they're so morbidly depressing in their lyrical concepts and stuff, that I find it cathartic listening to someone else, you know, talk about how shitty life can be, you know what I mean? And still find a way to implement. Yeah, and they still find ways to incorporate melodies, hooks. They never omitted the concept of guitar solos, you know. So, you know, factoring in the vocal prowess that band had is undeniable. I mean, whether or not you like that style of music, the first guy that tells me that Lane Staley can't sing is going to get throat punched. So, you know, at the end of the day, that those guys are brilliant musicians in their own right. So the idea is to draw, you know, the major influence being the thrash, but then find different ways to incorporate other outside influences into your craft.
Yeah. And
see what you can come up with, right? And I think we started to do that with Remnants, but on this next record, I think we really were able to achieve that. There's a song called Scumlord off the new album, and it's about a crooked cop, basically. And he ends up ripping off drug dealers. There's a little bit of truth to it. It's not about me. It's not a biography, but it's about a guy that was ripping off drug dealers, then ends up getting high on his own supply and just throws his life away. Anyways, that was a complete influence that was completely driven by the influence of Alice in Chains from a vocal perspective.
Yep.
And then musically, it had kind of a throwback to like that first Machine Head record, Burn My Eyes. Songs like None But My Own, that kind of, I wouldn't call it a ballad, but it was like a really dark atmospheric metal song, right? You know, so anyways, you know, I had a vision of where I wanted to go with each song, and just give you an example of one, but each song had its own vision, and the track listing is so diversified on the new record that no two songs sound remotely alike, you know. And I think that was the beauty of this record, and that's why it was a little bit difficult when we decided. Space Urchin just probably wasn't the greatest song as a title track. we're like, well, what would be, you know, like, because at the end of the day, each song is such a different song from one another. It's like you can't really go wrong picking one, but what is it we're trying to, you know, accomplish here? So powers that be, the lyrics were what was relevant in today's society. That's how that became the title track. But it could have very easily been, you know, I Am the Wolf or Beyond Hate, you know, so the opening track.
It's all pretty relevant.
Beyond Hate, that song was written about a supervisor. That song, what's that? You heard that one?
No, not yet, man.
Have you heard Beyond Hate?
No.
Okay.
No, I've got to have
That's the opening track. That's
Michael just sent
like
me
the sledgehammer with.
Yeah, I didn't get.
What songs do you have?
I've just got the couple there, the singles he's brought out. I haven't got the whole album yet, so I'll be buying it tomorrow.
Or like Skin, Freedom of Speech.
Yeah. I'll be buying it digitally, man.
Well, you know what? Send me your mailing information. I sent you a friend request. Send me your mailing information through Messenger when we're done.
Yeah.
And I'll send you some CDs, man. Yeah.
Yeah, too easy, man.
And you can use them for beer. You can use them for beer coasters if the music sucks.
I got a stack of CDs in here. I got a huge stack over in the corner. I'm actually a child of the 80s as well, dude. I love CDs and physical things, and like I was saying, I went and bought a record player just so I can get records and build up my record collection as well. I'm all about the merch and CDs and things like that, and I find us metalheads are a lot more like that, as you're saying, and we're more likely to buy it than people who listen to fucking DJ or pop, because they'll just go download this shit.
Right. No, that's 100% accurate. Yeah, and that's why I think that we've never really gone away. Like when people say, you know, well, thrash kind of became, you know, its popularity reached its apex during that Clash of the Titans era, you know, with the Big Four, and then it kind of got driven underground. It's like, well, with the exception of those bands, it's always been underground.
Yeah,
always has.
Yeah, I know.
So,
but we're like
bands
rocking around.
We're like. But thrash is like, we're like a bunch of cockroaches. There'll be a nuclear war, and there'll still be thrash guys going after the war.
With our battle vests.
We'll still be around.
Oh, with our battle
exactly.
vests will be the marching cry. Yeah. On that, Matt, I'm going to sign out here, man. This has been a massive pleasure. Everyone grab the Powers That Be album. That should be dropped by the time I drop this one out. Get that. Digital physicals come out November 27th. Matt, this has been an absolute pleasure. Everyone check out Wreck-Defy. Before I sign out, man, last word, shout outs or thank yous you might want to add in there.
I want to thank all the fans. I mean, without the fans, then we're just doing this for ourselves. So Australia, we want to come down there so bad. I mean, let's get this fucking world opened again so we can make our way down there, do some kind of festival dates, right? And yeah, I want to see you at a show. Bring your mates, and I'll buy you all a beverage of your choice, and I'll throw you some swag just for being the guy you are, brother. I appreciate
you come
so
over
much
to Australia.
I'll
show you around. I'll do one better. You come over to Australia. I'll show you around a little bit, man. That's for sure.
Good. Because I really want to pet a koala, okay?
Yeah, and then you got Michael over there. He's a really good one with Black Ruse, man. Hit him up. He'll make it happen as well.
Michael's awesome.
Yeah,
Michael's been great. Yeah, you know what? We've had, and actually, I've been talking to some friends like Genevieve from Temptress.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Rhoda? Genevieve
Rhoda? Temptress.
Yeah, like she put me in contact with. Yeah, her and her husband, they write great stuff. Anyway, she put me in contact with Mike. Once again, all that is a testament to the nucleus, what is a metal family, right? We're just helping each other, you know what I mean? And broaden our horizons collectively. So, yeah, man, thanks for having me on your show, brother. I appreciate it greatly, and I'm sincere with my wording here. If you're so inclined to have some CDs, you message me your address, and I'll send them to you. When the vinyl comes, I'll send you a vinyl copy as well.
Absolute legend, Matt. Thank you very much. I'll hit you up straight after this, bro. Thank you. Have a lovely day, man.
Okay, brother. Take care. Peace.
Cheers, bro.